So we'll first start with please Xavier. I'll just start your presentation, sir.
Good afternoon. This is a very special kind of interaction actually. The first of this kind we can say, especially for me, where we have gathered to discuss on data. Data is very important, as all of us know, and we always make efforts to get data, especially on child protection issues in Assam. But then we are still on we are on a long way to finalize the sources of data from all corners of Assam, and it will take time to. And as Apurv has already mentioned, that we already have a website. The website, this is like an initial stage actually we had developed, and we were planning to take it forward to another stage, but still it has not happened. So as he has already mentioned, we have got like 3 indicators mentioned here in the website, on which we are getting data from the districts. So based on those indicators, 33 indicators, we are receiving the data from the districts. And actually, State Child Protection Society, as all of you are aware of it, I think, it's a institute or a statutory body, okay, which is established in all the states to implement the integrated child protection scheme. Earlier it was called so, then it was known as Child Protection Services. Now Vatsaya is the scheme. So so we are implementing this Child Protection Services scheme in all the districts. And as many of you know, that we have almost every year we have new districts coming up in Assam. So it's very difficult to implement in those new districts. So in 33 districts, out of 33 districts, excluding 2-3 new districts, we are implementing the scheme. So as all of us know, data, why we started this website actually? Actually, we started the website to meet the gap between when we were not having any data actually, concrete data, just we are having informations, okay, in child protection issues, and we were having data only on certain things like CWC, related to CWC, JJB, children produced before CWC and JJB, and so on. So these are the data actually we have here in the website, and as already mentioned, that we have got 3 major criteria on which the data are generated. Institutional care we have, then we have got human resources, and there is one more, yeah, ICPS structure. So these are the 3 major criteria, and on these 3 criteria we have got 33 indicators, okay, and it's actually very interesting. Actually, we wanted to take So actually, all the districts, they enter the data in their. They have been given login, so through that they enter the data, and like we have got results such as here in dashboard. We can view in the index and indicator wise. Okay, suppose here in index, ICPS structure and functionality is shown here like it is indicated in different colors. Okay, so it shows the color coding is there, which shows the what do you call it, the like it categorizes the districts which are performing well and not performing well. So that is actually it is very important, and it is also very interesting actually, so that we can indicate the districts which are not performing well, and we can like do follow up and monitoring. So that was the idea of this color coding. So yeah, actually this is a indicator actually which remains the same all throughout the year actually, because it measures on the ICPS structure and functioning, how many staff are there, how many whether received training or not. So those things are here in this so as mentioned, we have actually limited indicators here. This is not the all. Actually, what we wanted to do is like we wanted to take it forward. So every month we have got reports coming from districts which are not here, and those reports are actually very important, and because we have to report back to the ministry also. So those reports are actually not given here. Actually, they are not. We have not put them here in this website. So we thought it to take it in the next phase. So the reports come to us every month on various issues, be it like child marriage, child trafficking, child labor, okay, child on POXO, and other reports, especially from districts as well as from the child care institutes. So we have got actually in a month we have got one data analyst. We don't have a particular data analyst actually, but then those persons who are sitting, they are allocated with different with other work, but then they are full time busy with this data collection and collation of the data. So that is it becomes very difficult for us actually to handle the other issues also. So that's why we wanted that to be in the next phase. So all the forms in the juvenile justice room, okay, they also we had planned them to like digitize them, and so that the reports can be generated online. So that was our plan, but then we have not achieved that plan, and we are still working on it, and there is a lot of issues also with regard to like taking it forward, and we have talked with Apu actually the other day. So those are the issues, and
so sir, how can we saying there are a few reports which are not there, a few data points which are not there. we have to, if you think that this initiative can help society design initiatives better, because you see the data, you see some districts are performing good, some are not performing good. So if we have to enhance the dashboard, and if you, so what are some of the things that we can support you with, or with respect to data or technology, or are there any other challenges you would like to share?
Actually, the first phase, this was totally supported by UNICEF actually. They had funded us with developing this website. So totally they helped us in developing this website. So the main problem now is only the finance, because we have got we get fund in certain heads already mentioned from the ministry. So we cannot divert this fund to this because nowhere in the budget, actually the budget heads mentioned about this website development or anything. So that is the main hurdle.
So are you also in like with UNICEF, in collaboration with UNICEF or any other funders or partners for that, to develop or enhance this dashboard or develop a second version of this dashboard?
Yeah, we have spoken to UNICEF actually. Yeah.
Any specific questions for UNICEF?
Thanks a lot, Savio sir, for explaining the child protection dashboard. In your understanding, what is the uptake of this platform? How are the local civil society actors, academicians, researchers finding it helpful? Because this is one of its kind, as we have studied several states, not this kind of a comprehensive dashboard exists. Although, as you were mentioning, there are still some gaps in this. But what has been the uptake so far?
From whatever reports you get from here, they are not sufficient actually data for because this mainly speaks on the ICPS structure, human resources, and only few indicators are there on tendency of cases and other things. So if we take it forward to other level, I think that will be more helpful to all the civil societies and even academicians, because we often get letters and calls from academicians, especially those who pursue PhD and other things. So they always require data. So maybe when we go to the other level, that will be more helpful for them, to take it to for them to use the data.
So definitely there is a demand for this data.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gaurav. Any other questions?
So you already laid down the fact that since designated people who have to suffer between multiple work, a lot of time is actually taken for analyzing data, and hence that becomes a challenge to manage all things. So are there, what I want to understand, how do we, or how do you ensure that the data that comes from the district, which again then comes from the block and respective subunits, comes to you in a way that your work of compiling and analyzing is reduced, developing a structure to have that data beyond these 43 indicators. So I wanted to understand if there are certain processes which are in place.
Right now is so what we are doing right now is doing everything manually. Manually means like we get the data in the PDF format. Then again we have to like fit the data in the computer, then generate again a report. So that is the work that we are doing actually. So that's why I said if we take it to another level, that would be very helpful for us also. So that like our yes, we can focus on different things and work.
Thank you, Sanjeevi and Gaurav. Ravi sir, would you like to share anything else on the dashboard?
I think you can see it here. Actually, yeah, what I wanted to tell is that like we are in the simple, in one page actually we can see the whole like the performance of districts actually. Here if you see in the map, so that like this, so also like in other, if we have other indicators also like being digitized and like we have in the website, then I think that also will be very nice and many people can help. Means it will be helpful to many people in terms of data and other things. So this is actually when we had like launched it, we were very curious and it was very interesting for us because many people also spoke about it in all over India actually, and it was taken as one of the best practices in the whole of India. So hope so, like if we get take the website to other level, I think that will be of great help to us also and to
Yeah, so one thing I would like to share is before coming here, we were in Delhi and we went to meet Mr. Anurag, who is the chairperson of Delhi Commission for Protection of Child Rights. And we were just discussing some of our work on POCSO and the Child Protection Acts, and we knew about this dashboard. So we kind of shared this with him and his team as well, and they were also quite impressed. And see, it's quite clear that the level of data and a lot can be done to enhance, the data sets and the indicators here, but still in terms of tracking ICPS, I don't think there are, many commissions who are doing this. So I think we should definitely continue working on this and, find ways to improve this dashboard. So yeah, thank you, Savi sir, for sharing your thoughts. So moving on, since we are also presenting this as in this is getting live stream, so just sharing my screen again. So Meghalaya, we have heard a lot about your work and your organization's work, and even before, so when we started our work on POCSO, like the whole, like everything was new for us. The law itself, the data, what does tracking implementation even mean? And because we were doing this in like the grant we wrote, so we did this in collaboration with HUC, and Bharti ma'am and her team like really helped us in understanding everything about the law and what all we should track. And so the story is they already did quite similar work in Delhi and Mumbai, but that was just for very few cases because everything was done manually. And when we when we kind of had a word with them and they shared their work, we thought, okay, since the data, one of the data sources, so they were using data from courts, district courts. We thought, okay, if the data is available on e-courts, we can search just 2 states. We can do it for many more states. And they were also quite apprehensive, like, okay, this is not possible because the data quality is not good, and we will have to spend a lot of time in just cleaning and everything, and not on the analysis. But still, we managed to download a lot of cases, and so that is how it all started. So for us, it started as a data and technology project, not like a POXO project. But as we started, and it almost took us a year to write that book, we also learned a lot on how the HUC deals with these cases. So, and still that was still limited to Delhi and even sections within Delhi. And so since we are now in Assam, and no better person to help us understand the state of POXO in Assam, so like to share whatever you can, and that can help us in this work ahead.
Thank you so much, Apoorv and team from CivicDataLab. Well, I've viewed the report already. I think it was quite a great attempt, and I've read through the entire. Of course, then I was trying to figure out how you address the challenges while dealing with court reports or court data. Because my team is here, my team members are here who work, Sampurna, Savera, Prashant, they are all here, and Sampurna and Savera especially have been working with me for quite some time, and they are aware of the ground realities. Not very encouraging, because when we talk about data, we're analyzing data, there has to be data in the first place to analyze, right? That is a big problem that we see while working on field at all levels. So when talking about POXO Act, it starts from, of course, the police station, then goes on to the Child Welfare Committee, then the District Legal Service Authority for interim compensation, and then finally into the trial court, the special court. Now, at all levels, you see the discrepancy of data. There is no connect, there is no common, platform or common kind of software or any kind of, interface through which they are actually processing or inputting data in the first place. So, for example, you ask Child Welfare Committee on the number of POXO cases reported, and then you ask the police the number of POXO cases, it will be different numbers, really, right? Of course, this is of course linked to the discrepancy in how the police has a mandate of informing POXO cases to the Child Welfare Committee under the law, which never happens. But nonetheless, I think now the practice has come into, people are practicing, we work extensively as well as intensively with the police, Assam police headquarters. And we're trying to address some of these issues. But our stress, our focus is on the procedures and implementation of procedures. Now, for example, if the police is actually informing cases of POXO, which are reported to the police station, to the Child Welfare Committee, that is where you see a kind of convergence or kind of similarity in the data. But if the police is not reporting, informing the Child Welfare Committee, you will see that the discrepancy in data. So these are things which we are trying to work very closely with police officers, of course with the Director General of Police, the Additional Director General of Police, CID, the Commissioner of Police in Guwahati City, all the SPs across the state, and down to the investigating officer level. But again, police is such a thing, it's difficult to work with the police force. But somehow, since we have worked for so long, we have tried to kind of all the time have this conversation. So if you look at our record of my colleagues Savera and Sampurna, if you look at their call logs, it were 500 calls, 800 calls, 1,000 calls to cops everywhere to ensure that they are following the procedure. Because that is very important. That if you, coming back to, diverging a bit, if you talk about procedures, now I feel sometimes bad for the cops to begin with, because they're the first responders. The procedures, as you might have known, because you worked on that report for the last 1 year with HUC, are not simple. They're very complex, because the police system is traditionally they work under the CRPC, IPC framework. And of course, the CRPC itself has been optimized, to put in women's rights and children's rights. Apart from that, then laws like POXO Act, they come with a special set of procedures. Not only that, then the mother of all is the Juvenile Justice Act, which is so complicated. So the police is completely like going CRPC, then POXO, and then JJ, and at the end they're lost, right? So first of all, we're trying to make sense of the whole thing. I'm trying to have this constant conversation with the police that, first is understanding that When there is more understanding on the procedures, we believe there'll be more implementation. So now we are like hand-holding, like the infants to us. We kind of call up every time. Okay, listen, when you register an FIR, you have to give the FIR copy to the informant. There's something as simple as that. And that is also because for us, implementation of those procedures is very important. The problem we are finding is how do we track them? Are they doing it or not? It's okay to say that, okay, is a trial being as per section 35 of the POCSO Act, the trial should finish in 1 year's time. Same section 35(1) will say that the trial, evidence of the trial should be within 30 days of the special court taking the cognizance of the matter. But those are again indicators which can be tracked. But how are we tracking that if the IO is actually interviewing the child as per the rules set forth in the procedures under section 39 of the POCSO Act, for example, under the model guidelines? So these are discrepancies which we are all the time facing. Quantitatively, yes, it is easier, I would say, because we can still know, I mean, NCRB is one source of data. We know how many FIRs are being registered. Secondly, we know how many courts are going into, cases are going into trial to the special courts. We know how many cases are being disposed, how many acquitted, how many are still pending. These are easier data. But for us as an organization, it is very important to also track quality. And quality is linked to the implementation of procedures, because the heart and soul of special laws like POCSO and JJ are the implementation of procedural law. Or else because it's linked to child rights, right? It's linked to the rights of children. So how do we track that? That is what I was mulling over when you first made the call to me. So I thought the first conversation that I'll have with you and our team is to help us track that. Because when we go to the police and show them that, how your cops are doing on field, police is very content with, oh, charge sheet fine ho gaya kinds, I was like, no, how was the quality? So again, my team would vouch for it, that when we go up to the police would say, oh, we have filed the charge sheet, investigation is over. But if you look at the quality, if you are this child, how was your experience? When you came in contact with the police system, and as per data, you must be knowing that around, I think both children who are victims of crime and children who are in conflict with law, if you look at the 5 years data on average, around 5,300 children come into contact with the police system every year. And that is a huge number, right? So, but when you go and ask the children that how was your experience while dealing with the cops, it's most often than not negative. It's adversarial. They're not happy. So what would be the way to ensure that there is tracking of that as well? Procedurally, the implementation of procedural law is something which is difficult, complex, yet I think you guys are the experts and I'm sure you can find a way out, maybe if not all, if you can have certain indicators that are fixed. That's something as simple as the recording of statement of under section 161 of the CRPC should be conducted in the residence of the child or at a place where the child feels comfortable. But here, every time we are telling the cops and every time they go, oh, thane mein bula diya kind of situation, I said, nahi bulana, don't call. So my team is always behind them. You should not call them to the thane. It should be done at their residence or at a place where they're comfortable. And these things make all the difference. Apart from of course, the major chunk of data is of how the police records the data. In trafficking, I'll give you an example. Trafficking is that I think police are we don't even have a comprehensive trafficking law, to say. But nonetheless, when they are coming across a case of missing children, they cannot distinguish between missing and trafficking. It's a little complex. But they put everything under kidnapping and abduction. So if you look at the data of NCRB, you will see POCSO is the second highest. The highest is about 2,000 cases is kidnapping and abduction. And many of them are trafficking cases. And trafficking cases are only identified when there is a rescue. So some Thana will go rescue or some railway police will go rescue and then they come to know that 30 children there. And I don't know where the police record that information. It's just there in some manually maybe, in CID office, which if you have your website, you can get the data out. But otherwise, it's very difficult to access that data. So what I want to say is that at every stage of justice delivery, there should be a common kind of data management system, and it should be in a way that everywhere you guys should be connected to each other. So I think that technology is very important. Currently, we don't have that, and And secondly is to track procedural implementation. How do we track that? Okay, you're giving justice at say a police station level as far as quantity is concerned, because they have police, how do they draw their benchmarks? They have this, I was talking to the SP somewhere in district, they have this KKC, the KBC, right? So when I went to review some of the POCSO pendency in 5 districts, the SP told me we have a KKC, there's a Kon Katega charge sheet. So they have a thing, competition kind of thing. So they're like, okay, how many charge sheets have you kind of completed investigation? And if you look at the quality of those I have seen case diaries, it's terrible. Of course, we're still trying to work on that as well. That's a different thing, but they don't stress on the quality. So Kon Katega charge sheet basically is that you just have to finish the investigation somehow. So it's very important to show. I mean, I would like to engage with you because we are having this thing called the Assam Police Issue Mitra program. It's a partnership between the Assam Police and UNICEF is our partner. Eva is here. I haven't seen Eva for a long time. So UNICEF is a partner there. We're trying to help police run this integrated center of child rights, where they'll also provide, it's a P2P kind of model. So police headquarters will provide technical assistance to IOs, but their data would be a very important component because we are trying to address implementation of the POCSO Act, like I said before, not in terms of filing of charge sheets or convictions and acquittals, acquittals, but also in terms of qualitative implementation, the procedural implementation. Secondly, another thing is data discrepancy would be seen as the special relief. Special relief is a completely new provision that has come into the POCSO rules after its amendment in 2020, where children who are who have survived child sexual abuse are entitled to a special relief from the child welfare laws. Now the problem comes here is another level data discrepancy is that no one is aware of how much funds are there in which institution. So, for example, the special relief comes from something called the Juvenile Justice. I don't know who, maybe ICPS, my friends from ICPS might know, but whenever I ask people, how much fund do you have? Or where is the fund handled? Is there any information, some public data on the funds that have been given out, that have been spent, or that are available? I mean, people in the government have scant idea. so I think this is something which can be worked out. That this entire data around funds, how is it going out, how much is being spent, what is left, what public services can children can actually access. No data, secondly, similarly on interim compensation, which is of course the district legal service authority has to give. They're like tired of fighting. Now they have a huge calendar finally drawn out with district legal service authority that they have to take out those funds. But most often than not, and they would vouch for it, that the person sitting on the chair, the system, the child welfare committee are not aware of how much funds are there in the district legal service authority. Because I know for a fact, and I would say publicly, that when we are applying for special interim compensation, compensations are coming in, but several times the checks are bounced. So that means the system is not aware of how much funds they are having in their own account. And there is no data system to track that. So for example, why are you giving out funds if you don't have the money? And for a government official who is supposed to be very objective, doesn't matter. But for a child, it's a life-changing moment, right? So because they wait for that, because especially children who come from very marginalized, socioeconomic backgrounds, their life relies on it. Especially interim has special value because that is it is supposed to be given at that initial crucial phase, but it's taking 1 year, 1.5 years. So it's not meeting the purpose for which it had been created. So I think that system of fund management. Data around funds is something which should be there and everyone should have access to it. So if I today apply for interim compensation to the district legal service authority, I should know how much funds they have in their hand, and it should be available to the public. And so that according to that we apply. Likewise, the special relief is the same thing, right? And then of course a trial also of course evidence, timeline of evidence, timeline of trial. the quality of the trial, are they being implemented? If not all, maybe the crucial indicators need to be identified and there should be a tracking system. And that is how at the end of the year, someone like me who dabble between being an activist and a practitioner, because we have to practice and we have a proper technique, but when we get too distracted by some things, we go and have to show that there is a discrepancy. And the system should know in itself that there is a problem. And this problem needs to be addressed. So I think these are certain areas that probably you can explore and help the system. So definitely, and SPS is quite open to having partnerships and engagement with. But again, it depends on their funding structure. Now, funding is related to again the bigger fund crunch in child protection, nationwide. Because after Vatsatya, I think funding is decreasing on child, especially on child protection. So that is an area which the state needs to think and invest. Maybe information, education, communication can take a backseat for that because people now have access to the internet and it can be communication is much faster, it can be disseminated much in different ways. But maybe investment on data is very important because that is what shows us the picture on the ground, and that is what will inform policy. Because if we have, I believe, if we have data discrepancy, our policies will be faulty, right? Our policy decision making will be faulty. And who suffers at the end? The children who are victims of sexual abuse. So I think these are two important points that I want to share with you. And if you work on probably all these aspects, and I believe it will make service or delivery more effective and higher quality. Thank you.
You agree, sir? So, yeah. Since now we have at least we know some part of the ecosystem in Delhi how things work and also a bit in Haryana. So there were 3 states, Delhi, Assam, and Haryana, for which the report was written. And I must say that most of what we spoke, the issues are across these states, and for compensation related issues or sentencing related issues and all that. So and also on the qualitative, when we started the report, I think that was that is what we were apprehensive about it as well, because all of us have worked with NCRB, but then what does it lead to? It's not just about filing more FIRs, but then the quality, as you said. So one thing which Huck has been trying to do is come up with this. I think it's an yearly report, and recently they came up with a new one. So they called it the POXO fact book or something like that, which is for the cases that they are dealing with. So let's say even they in any year they deal with 300 to 400 cases. Now this data is not available anywhere else. Compensation, etc. Like all the indicators which are not available anywhere else, it is available with them because they are dealing with those cases and they come up with this report. So that is the qualitative side of things to start with. Obviously, it's very less, but there is nothing. Like only people who are working in the system, they know about the qualitative issues. So that is something that they have been trying to do. So, but I think that should be done like across organizations as well. So, and I will also share the report with you as well. So, yeah.
So maybe also coming to the judiciary, if you have a conversation with the judiciary as well, because their data which they put out is absolutely problematic because some cases which evidence is over, they're still at appearance, in that stage. So what happens is while you are trying to, for example, while I was preparing some report for the judiciary to present to the Juvenile Justice Committee, and I saw that, my God, it's the entire thing when I looked up online and then I asked my team, they said, no, so this is over, that is over. They've not put it out for months. So even the system, maybe an engagement, intensive engagement, I would say, with the judiciary might help. I would suggest you meet someone from the Juvenile Justice Committee and bring these issues to the notice, because it is very, even for someone who's a child needs to follow up with their own case, they need accurate data on time, right? So they need it's a right to information world, and they should have right and accurate information access to them. But if you look at online, it's not, that's all faulty. And some language they don't even understand. I mean, children don't understand. Again, making it accessible to all means you have to use communication styles that the children understand, right? So maybe since you work so much on data and again linked to access to data, which is right of victims, I feel you should have this larger engagement with the judiciary as well and have a conversation that let us help us out, help you out if you need something. But that will again you need conversations at all stages. I mean, from ICPS can help you do all the child welfare committee and the district child protection. Child welfare committee, for example, they're also management of cases. There's a lot of problems on that as well. So ICPS can help in that stage. So then you can go to the district, the state legal service authority, and talk to them about how we can help you one sort out the mess, and secondly how it can be in line with the work of the state child protection society. And then go up to the judiciary where and say that that as far as updates of cases are concerned. So again, let's help you out your mess and then put in line. So then there is a kind of
Working at the intersections.
there's a convergence there, and that is very important, I think. Yeah. So any questions maybe?
Thank you, sir. Just wanted to touch on the point of the procedural steps and the data regarding that. Assuming that we have a mechanism ready to track the procedural correctness of the investigation of the other procedures, would that affect how the case proceeds in, let's say, in the court? That okay, these have been the procedural errors committed by various actors at various stages. But now that that data is out there, how would that, just trying to understand, would that have any adverse impact on how the case proceeds? Would that help us improve the things?
Okay. I don't know if I got the question correctly. See, the intent of the legislature. See, these laws, special laws are linked to rights of children. And if we're talking about rights of children, it's not a gift. It's not a gift of a gift. It's an obligation of the state. So it is important for the state to be aware of it. That where are we going wrong as far as implementation of procedures are concerned. If procedures are being implemented, one, like I mentioned before, the rights of children are being met. Because India is also signatory to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. And out of the obligations of the convention, we have the laws which are repealed and amended, and new acts are being enacted. It is all to pursue the rights of children as set forth or as envisioned in the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. So one, it helps the state, and since India signed to the UNCRC, the state has an obligation
national indicator framework by Niti Aayog. It's different to what the actual SDGs are supposed to measure, maybe because they have to contextualize it for the Indian setting. But then again, there are these indicators which might make sense, might not make sense, but then there is no qualitative answer to it. So I think this is something that collectively we have to figure out how quantitative and qualitative data should go together always to kind of understand anything.
Yeah, I think that is extremely important because, like I said, and I would reiterate that my team and I, when we work, sometimes there is this kind of feeling that if you file the charge sheet on time and if you finish the trial on time and and then it's all right. You have no other responsibilities. But that is creating a huge problem when you look at it from the child's perspective. You go and ask the child how your experience was. It should be good, right? But that is seldom the case. And we want to enhance the experience of children when they come in contact with the system. Be it the police, district leaders of the authority, because and data will also change the narrative. See, like for us, it's very important as an organization, as a matter of principle, that that we realize that the whole focus should be the child and what are the child's experience. Here, while engaging with the system and while having conferences and this traveling all around the world and we tend to forget sometimes. So what we do is that, and I make it a point that my team members are always in contact with the children, because the center is, without children, you don't have any value. The laws don't have. So at the end, the child will say how the experience was, and that also links to the child's right to participation, right? So, so for us, we come back, we pull ourselves back. We also get sometimes carried away when we are having these political conferences and seminars and luncheons, and you get tired of it because when you come back, you see that the experience of the child is just sad. So for us, we always have these conversations as a team, or with our volunteers, interns, that the focus should be the child. So we made this was Inakshi, he told me very interestingly, Inakshi Ganguly, very close to me. So Inakshi told me that there's a rule when she was there. That is, the first is the mission, which is a child. The second is the organization, and third is the self. So we in our team, we always discuss that. That at the end, we need to see and find out. And we're not recording. So now we have started. Savira is a counselor. A part of Savira's job profile is to actually document the experiences of children. And what we are going to do now is probably at the end of March, we're going to show it to the police, because first we have a partnership with the police, that this is what the child has to say. And that is also a reminder, and these documents, a very important document. And if you have then, now this is how many individual children will track. But if you can track the procedures, then it's easier to tell that story. But the experience was this, and it was not very positive. And that informs the state to kind of take necessary measures or interventions that can change that narrative. And let me tell you what that will do is that, because systems, government or otherwise, we always bother about our reputation, right, all the time. Data can only take you, okay, this is going on. Data also moves you a lot. And then you have international commitment. So, and if that is kind of supplemented with qualitative data, that would be like the final, blow, if you're not doing it. So that is an area which we all need to focus.
Thank you, Vijay. I think we have a few slides on the work that we have done. I think it covers most of the points that we have already. Won't take much time. Unfortunately, this is all about quantitative side of things. So,
data.
So so tracking laws using data. Yeah, this is the live stream, so it's a bit laggy. Yeah. So why do we need to track laws? Because, and this is all an assumption, it might lead to institutional accountability, identification of gaps and challenges in. There are a lot of departments involved, so where are the gaps? Our policy should be data driven. We need to do impact assessment of laws, which is usually missing. Efficient courts, and I think that we just resolve what we are on here for. So that is the objective. So using data to track child protection laws. I think Miguel sir already spoke about the NCRB, and that is in fact the only official data set. The Crime in India reports which are released by the NCRB annually, though not annually now. The latest one available is from 2020. Data sets are available, they are much readable, so easy to interact with. Indicators though are aggregated at a police station level, but for on the website they only release state level and for a few metropolitan cities. For POXO, NCRB started computing data from 2014 onwards. So 2012 and 2013, the methodology of capturing POXO cases is very different from what it was from 2015. So POXO, let's quickly see what POXO related indicators in the NCRB. This is not an exhaustive list. So there are three categories. One for persons arrested, you have arrested, charge sheeted, convicted, discharged, acquitted. Then you have these many indicators for the inputs. Cases on trial, cases awaited, disposed by plea bargaining, etc. So all of these indicators are available for courts. And then there are even more indicators for the police. I think the maximum for the police. So yeah, all these indicators are available. But then is data from NCRB enough to track laws? If there is nothing, then yes, it is important. But where it helps, as it's the only official source of crime statistics, and you can also understand patterns within a geography and over time, because the data is available, for a few years, and also within the same geography. So it helps in understanding the larger patterns of crime, even if you are not able to find hotspots within a city because that data is not available directly. And also another important thing is the data is available in Hindi and English, at least two languages. Where it doesn't help is there are frequent changes in the methodology for capturing data for indicators, which means that you can't always compare, it's sometimes apples and oranges. Exact methodology is not documented. Data obviously is not available. It's always most of the time it's delayed. District level data is very hard to procure. And so is the police station also. Our colleague Samriddhi, she just went to one of the police stations in Bihar and it was very difficult to get the data. Though it is, you can procure it, but then there is a lot of steps to take to do that, which is not clear at all. So apart from NCRB, then there are other data sources, and especially what we focused on for this report that we wrote with her. We use the data coming from the courts, e-courts, and we only were working with the district courts. So data maintained by courts is an important resource. So what is different when you compare it with NCRB? Granularity, because data is available for each case. Timelines, data is available on almost on a near real-time basis, like I can get what happened yesterday in court. Coverage is also good now because mostly all the district courts are on the e-courts platform. Ease of access, I will say that if I have to look at my case, then I can go online and search. But if I have to, let's say download all the POXO cases, then that is a very hard thing to do. So ease of access in terms of accessing this one case. And then there's also the e-committee is also trying to build other tools and resources so that people can interact with this data even if they're not able to download it. So platforms like the National Judicial Data Grid can be used to explore this data. So hence the data is there, the data is important, the volume is there. But then what are some of the challenges? As I said, accessing in bulk is difficult. It's very difficult because of a lot of data standardization issues, and it's like every district court has a department and sometimes they follow these practices, sometimes not. It's if I have to see how many cases are registered within section 4 or 6 of the POXO Act, it will take me at least with a lot of manual work. So a lot of these things are there. Yeah, exactly the point. Data sets, now this is also important. Now, there are, for, at least Delhi High Court, there was an order that, that the court should not upload judgments, POCSO judgments, because of sensitive information. But then, a lot of information is available on the judgments, like, about the victim, about the incident, victim compensation or sentencing for that matter. Now, a lot of these things are not available if the judgment itself is not available. So then, what is the midway? So, yeah, so dealing with this, especially in POCSO cases, is very difficult. Data completeness, a lot of times, now it all depends on how the data is curated. Sometimes a lot of important things are missing. And since things are getting digitized right now, so which means that let's say pre-2016 or pre-2014, the quality of data is not that good. Now, there are a lot of things that we can capture on records. Yeah. So this is a case on equals. This is how it looks. So you have the case type, the filing number, filing date, registration number, CNR number, which is actually the ID of a case. Then you have case status, which is whether the case was disposed or it's pending. You have the petitioner and advocate details, you under what acts and sections. Now, here is where it gets quite messy. Now, this still is written in a proper format, like sections are separated by comma, but a lot of times it's a very messy data set. There are all sort of combinations which are present, and this is like a very important data field. So a lot of data, a lot of indicators are available, but then all depends on how good the quality of entering or curating this data is. So how we use data from equals to track the POCSO Act in Assam. So we collaborate with the Hub Center for Child Rights to track POCSO in Assam, Delhi, and Haryana. This program was part of the grant that we received. So we participated in the Data for Justice Challenge, which was organized by partners at Adani. The main source of data for this research is cases coming from ECOS from 2012 to I think March or April of 2020. There were a total of 19,783 cases across the 3 states. We had to download close to 1 lakh cases and then filtering it out and making sure that the data is correct. We kind of it filtered down to almost 20,000 cases, out of which almost 30% are from Assam. And in those 30% cases, or 46% were disposed, and 3,000 cases are pending. But this was during the time of data collection, which is April of 2020. And fortunately, here judgments were available in almost 42% of the disposed cases, so not that bad when we compare it to the national average. But still, this was a challenge to obtain judgments and orders. So now we just to give you a brief insight on this is like this is not a report, but just to see what all we had captured. And I hope my screen is visible. Okay. So some basic indicators like total cases in each district and now cases pending, now where the cases were pending, and this is just for Assam. Cases pending under each category. Now, this is also important because some of these indicators are not available directly from NCRB. Like I can still see cases registered under a particular section, let's say section 4 and 6 of POCSO, but in terms of pendency, I won't be able to get that information. But through eCodes, this information is available now. PSS stands for penetrative sexual assault. So these are some of the short forms that we use, and we are calculating pendency for each of the offense which is listed here. And obviously, we are using the primary offense logic that the NCRB also uses, which basically means that the offense with a higher punishment gets taken as the offense for a particular case. There are conviction rates by the type of offense. Again, with possible because the data was captured at this level. Time taken for disposal of a case, disposal time as per the nature of disposal, and the last one, this is a bit interesting. Reason was, I think, now even I think the Finance Commission has kind of supported that. I think the grant that they had been 5,000 crores or 10,000 crores, most of it was to develop fast track courts across the country. And but then there wasn't any logic shared in terms of where these courts should be built, or depends on the caseload and pendency and other things like why and where the fast track court is needed. So this is again a very simple logic. Now you see the total caseload, and this is for 2019 for all the districts. This is an increasing order, and then pendency percentage at the end of 2019. And you will see that it's very visible that there are some courts which have a lot of caseload, but they are also able to close cases quickly. Now this is just the numbers. We don't know about the quality of how that is happening, but as far as the numbers is concerned, there are good, like for example, Barpeta, the caseload is like very high, 353 cases in a year, but also the pendency is low, which means it's doing decent as compared to other.
Is the district on Katigati's statute?
Okay.
That's why.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a takeaway for today. So yeah. So I think when I was preparing this, I saw Kamrun Metro also has a very high pendency and very low disposal. Disposal rate is as low as 5%, or was 5% in 2019. And if you can see, it's I think 6th or 7th class. There are 215, so decent caseload, but very high pendency, like 95% cases were pending at the end of 2019. So based on this, this is a very basic analysis. A lot can be done, and but still shows the possibilities of when the data is available. Now what's next? Now a lot of these points are already discussed. The core data is powerful, but it is limited. There are several aspects which Miguel sir talked about, which are difficult to understand, and proceeding, equity, conviction, bail, forensics, etc. Important indicators like time taken to file a charge sheet are not available. Just the date is available, but the time taken we don't know. Time taken from cognizance to completion of child's testimonies not captured. Reasons for adjournments not captured. No details mentioned around interim or final compensation to victims. The time it takes for court to grant, this is like a common thing across the country. It's not known. Other important indicators around shelter and witness protection support, medical support, paralegal support, etc. not captured. Which means we need more data and we need more indicators. Yeah, and data coming from police, which is via NCRB and courts, those are like very important components, but they don't tell the complete story. So so one of the plans was to kind of take this report to, let's say, the District Legal Services Authority or the Judicial Commissions or maybe other stakeholders who are involved, and look at their data systems and see, okay, can, like you had mentioned, how everything can be plugged together. So that is what we need. And this is also where we would like to get your feedback on, which is so at least how we are planning to take this side is the discussion with stakeholders on how this information can be used again. So we recently, the E Committee of the Supreme Court, they also came up with a consultation paper. So they are now working on the third phase of the third of so which is now it's hard to access data from e-courts, but then there was a plan on having open APIs, which means that everyone can, let's say, if I want POXO cases, I can probably just select it somewhere and I will get a bulk of cases. So that is the plan. But looking at the data quality, looks like it will take some time, but at least they are thinking in that direction. Collaborating with researchers to identify steps that can be taken by courts to share information related to POXO cases without compromising anyone's identity. Now, this has been a challenge, especially if you would like to get access to judgments and orders. Now, it's not clear on whether the courts can share it or cannot share it. So we, as part of this study, we had collaborated with Macquarie University. So their students, they had research around how other countries are dealing with this problem. So, whether they have systems in place where if a researcher wants access to this data, then, what to do or how to protect privacy. So, at least what we have seen is that what some states have started doing is they anonymize the names, but still there is a lot of information present within these judgments. So, even we don't feel comfortable. We have the data, but we don't know whether we should have it or not. Who are we to have that contain the data? Finding ways to collaborate with child protection society, child protection commissions, legal aid authorities on enhancing their internal data capacity, which our hope is to improve the overall state of data. And yeah, all the data sets, obviously not the judgments, and also we have tried to anonymize these data sets the best we can. So the data sets are uploaded. So this is also a platform that we have created where so when you see, especially in the law and justice, this space, there isn't a lot of public data available, but then there are organizations who are collecting a lot of data on ground, victimization surveys, etc. So we RTIs. So the intent behind creating the justice hub was for people to be able to share all this data at one place. So all the resources for the project are uploaded here. And yeah, I think we have discussed on both these questions and how can data help in understanding the gaps and challenges faced by stakeholders, and also how we all can support kind of each other better for better tracking and monitoring of child protection legislation. So any last thoughts you have, sir?
Thank you, Apple, for the presentation. No doubt we have like a lot of data in the field, but I think we as government bodies and NGOs we need to collaborate with each other, and so that a better system is like worked out for getting the data from all areas in the field. Actually, we can't, if we don't have data, actually we can say that that we are working in the field, or means we are doing some work for the children. So actually the data is very important, even to like show that we are actually genuinely working or not. That's why I think it will be very helpful if we collaborate, working out a system so that all the data is captured, and even data should not be like at different levels. Like we have change of data. For example, especially in child protection, I think it should be a case basis data, so that the child doesn't get lost in one particular phase. So suppose if a child is found by CWC, presented before CWC, sent to a CCI, so all this system should actually fill the data, so that at the end, when the child is rehabilitated, we have a complete life history of the child also, along with the data. So that is, I think, very important, especially working in the child protection.
But yeah, like I say that I think the intent is good, and we are in need of it for sure. I guess the next step would be to have these very informed conversations with people who can effectuate this entire process. So I would suggest, Sabi, maybe Sabi can also help connecting with the leadership in the department as well, who would take the decisions. I would suggest as it next to a very good chief secretary, you should also try and meet him. Very active, proactive, would like to listen, is open to ideas. And if you talk on data and how it will help improve, I'm sure that there will be some savvy like we did for that. They can basically call you and you can do a presentation to the state. They call all the stakeholders. That is one stage. The second, of course, policing. I'll definitely have an engagement with you because you are here for some days. So I'll try to maybe have a meeting with the police leadership because we are trying to have this Vishwamitra Center at the CID headquarters. And that center will definitely need a strong data management system to inform the police. Again, a very proactive Director General of Police, also a very proactive Commissioner of Police in Guwahati City. So I think that in these areas, I can probably have certain help facilitate certain conversations. And if they like your idea, for sure, and we are in need of it. So I'll also have a conversation for sure with the people I work with. The State Legal Services Authority, again, a very good guy, the Secretary, Mr. enshrined. Good guy, open to dialogues and everything. These are the three persons you should meet, make a note of them. They are the ones who will. And finally, I think at the court level, should be Justice Proteshwar Singh, who is heading the Juvenile Justice Committee. Again, an outstanding judge, the second senior most judge in the Guwahati High Court. And these are people who we can actually openly have a conversation, who are willing to look into newer things, newer avenues. And you'll also have a great, conversation with them. And they're very, very nice people. I've worked with them very closely. So I think these are the things that you should look into and then get the convergence. Because at the Chief Secretary, the social welfare component, then it becomes the police component and the judiciary. These three are very important, right? So if you can tap into these three institutions, I think, and the leadership there, because you need someone who can make the decision at the end, right? And say, okay, we need it and we want to do. But you have to go with them with an idea that this is what we want to do. Because they will not have time, right? So you tell them this is what we want to do, and this is what I think how it will help you. Having conversations with the state all the time, I realize is one thing is that how will it help them? So I think with that, maybe a very clear agenda in mind, I think you should in the next few days try to meet all of them. And then probably at the end of the year, come up with a very concrete system where we can have good quality data that will inform the state. Action. So I think that would be my suggestion and concern. I'll try to help you as much locally. Take this entire work forward. Personally, like your work a lot, so it would be great to have some. Okay.
Thank you, Vijay, sir.